All right, hey Rocketeers, welcome to another exclusive BFCM special webinar with Webstudio. And let me tell you, all right, they are crushing it right now on Rocket Hub. You know, so all of them are ex-Webflow folks and have been making a lot of noise on the internet. So today we have Alex, who is an amazing dude. And on LinkedIn, he writes himself as a co-founder and head of growth at Webstudio. And what a person to work with, what an amazing, incredible person to work with. So we had fun while we were creating all of the stuff for you guys and presenting these to you for you. So welcome, Alex, to this webinar, and thank you for taking out time and address our people over here. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Karan. Hello, everyone in the chat. Lovely to see you all. Excited to be here tonight as well, although a little bit nervous. This is my first live call I think I've done in quite a while. But otherwise, super hyped to get a bit of a conversation going with the community in live and walk through the product and answer any questions and dive a little deeper.
Awesome. Amazing. Okay, so Alex, I think let people know about how the idea of Webstudio came from and how you decided to take on the mighty Webflow and
Yeah, for sure.
become and decided to have it as an open source community, and you built a good GitHub discussion threads. Like all of them have a lot of comments. It's very tough to see that on GitHub, but you guys pulled it off. How did you make it happen? And how are you democratizing the way we build websites? So let all of them know, like, open your heart out, and we are eager to listen to you.
Yeah, for sure. It's a loaded question. So I might go through high level everything, and then
Sure,
you guys can ask questions in the chat or anything that you want more information on, we can dive in. So perfect. I might start off with the team and then how it sort of got started. So kicking things off with myself. So my background is in mostly SaaS growth marketing. But before getting into SaaS and into sort of the startup world, I spent a lot of time in the agency world building websites. And that was sort of what I enjoyed and what I loved the most. And after sort of building up the last SaaS that I was at, so it was about 5 years back, I was there for 4 years, grew it from, your little baby in your garage company of like 10, 12 people to a proper, I'd say, post-startup, like 600 employee big company. And then it got to the point where it was like, all right, well, we're dealing with a lot of government and less interesting stuff. I want to start something new. And that's what led me to like, hey, I enjoyed this building the business process and building teams and scaling. But what I loved the most was back to that agency niche and building websites. And Webstudio was sort of really the middle ground between the two, right? Where it's like, hey, I get to build an infrastructure and a company and a system like I enjoy and I wanted to and scale that. But I still get to be very close to that agency crowd and designers, developers, marketers. That's very close to my heart as someone who has been through a couple of those startups and that journey myself. And so I found Oleg about 8 months ago now. So Oleg is the original founder or the big founder behind Webstudio. He was the original creator and built the first MVP. And he was working on it for about a year himself before we started building up the team and then scaling and introducing it to customers and users. So Oleg's background and his sort of foundation behind it is very much as an ex-Webflow employee who moved around the tech sector. So he started at eBay, then worked at Webflow, then moved to Tesla. And while he was at Tesla, I was still working on this side project of, hey, imagine if Webflow had these additional features that I would have wanted to build when I was working there, if it was open source and did allow other people to contribute to it. And he started building this product, and he met the founder of Product Hunt, who was our first investor. And he was like, hey man, this is super cool. Start building it and I'll be your lead sort of angel, your initial guy who gets into seed and help you build that initial relationship with the other investors. And that's sort of how we got that, I think, a pretty significant or pretty solid investor network. Right. So that's Oleg's background, a little bit of my background. We met sort of at a meeting point. We are pretty much opposite personalities, as far opposite as you can get. He lives in the engineering world, is a super logical human. I live in the marketing world. I'm very emotional driven as a human. And that's sort of, I think you see that then in Webflow's marketing and product and what you see that we actually put out in the real world. It's sort of that hybrid of like, okay, it has been thought through and it's well sort of planned. And that a lot of that comes from Oleg's brain, and then just constantly more things out, the connection, the relationships with you guys and the community is stuff that I bring a little bit more to the table. So that's how Webstudio was created, sort of the original foundation. Since then, we've built a little bit of a bigger team. So we've got some incredible developers. They're also in Europe with Oleg. We've got great designers as well. So we've got a product designer who has built out all of the interface, and everything that you click on and see in Webstudio is his genius. And then we have a designer who takes care of a lot of our thumbnails, the videos, the animations that you see. Sort of this small team of experts, each in their own field, driving the product forwards. Big picture, that's how I'd say Webstudio is framed, what the team looks like, and then sort of direction that it's heading and where we're looking to grow is today I would call Webstudio a website designer, a website builder, geared towards your hybrid developer, designer, visual developer is what we call them internally.
Yep. Awesome.
As it grows, and then what we're trying to build as this first version is essentially, hey, let's get good foundation of a solid product that builds everything that you need to get started in creating your websites. Then as we grow it and scale it, and part of this being open source, the whole plan and idea behind it is that we're building that foundation for then community to sit on top of in a way that it can scale and grow to the levels. Like dream goal would sort of be WordPress like community and contribution. That's a big picture direction. Okay, I think that's high level. I also went into way too many details. But,
that was amazing. I think that it's important for people to know like where you're headed and what was the purpose, right? So Webstudio is built on a good purpose of what Webflow doesn't have, and let's get that inside and include developers as well as part of this development, because a lot of times when people think about the web designers in today's space, they all think about everything is drag and drop and nothing's being custom coded, or nothing's been perfectly fine, loading speeds and stuff like that. Because that, if you notice, any site has a low loading speed that won't receive a lot of traffic, they will lose out on sales. That's an important aspect to kind of have in the picture, and I think you guys are like completing the whole circle. That's what I would feel like.
Yeah, that's the goal. And like I was saying, it's really building those foundational pieces. And that's a big focus at the moment, just strong architecture that we can then rapidly scale with additional features, contributions, community, and so on.
Perfect. Amazing. That's I think a good introduction. Thank you so much for that. Alex, I think let's go forward and deep dive into the meat, the elephant in the room, which is Webstudio. And let's go and see the product. Let's kind of build a page if you can, like, let's show people how the output seems.
I'll give a quick overview, and perhaps we can open up to some questions as I'm going through. Or
perfect. And we'll take up questions. So everyone in the chat, everyone attending, you have questions, drop them in the Q&A box, and we will take that one by one when we have in the middle or we reach to the end of the webinar, so that we can answer every question and don't miss out. So anything you have, Q&A box is open. Go ahead and put your questions over there.
Super cool. I'll just answer Chenna and Mark while we're on the questions here. So Chenna's asking, do you have full-time employees now or open source contributors? Most of the work today comes from our full-time employees. So me, everyone in the team here works here full-time at the moment. We're starting to see, as of the product hunt launch, and a little bit more marketing and pushing that we're doing, we're starting to now get some traction from community development. And we see that a little bit both on the development side with the integration to Netlify, which is something that was built by a community member. And then also more on the product and marketing education side, where we've had some great contributions from the community on like, hey, rewrite this in a way that's better to understand it, and some suggestions left and right. Mark, thank you for the kind words. Mark saying good to see someone being enthusiastic for his team and proud for his team about the product. I appreciate it. It's very true. I'm very proud of the team and in love with with my own product, or with the own space. All right, so I'm going to jump over to Webstudio and I'm going to start sharing my screen. Is that all right with you, Cron?
Perfect.
Yep.
Let's do it.
All righty. Sec. Go. So you should be able to see a screen that says Open Visual Development and our landing page. Is that correct?
Yep, we can see it.
Great. So we'll just go through the sort of login process and sign up. I'm pretty sure I'm already logged in. Once you get into the Webstudio Builder, you'll first be met with your dashboard. My dashboard here is pretty full because I try lots of different projects and ideas. But here you'll see all of your different projects. On the top right-hand corner, you'll be able to find some extra resources to learn. And you'll notice that we put out videos and extra content about twice a week. And beside that, the ability to create a new project. Right at the bottom of this screen, you'll also see some initial templates. And from here, you can click on the template links, and this will open the demo of that template. Not sure if I'm sharing a tab or a screen.
You're sharing the screen. It's fine.
Okay, sweet.
Yep.
Or if you click on that demo, you can then import that as a starter project. We might dive into something from scratch, or something that I've started on a page here. So let's go with this create a UI as an example. So when you start a new project or you create a project, you'll open it up into the builder. Now on the builder, just go to a blank page. What you'll find on the left-hand side is then the ability to add different components. And I'll do a high-level sort of explanation, full builder, and then we'll dive into each of the things in detail. Cool?
Awesome. Let's do it.
It'll be crazy. All right, sweet. High level. So far left-hand side, you'll see 4 initial options. The first, the ability to add components. And so these are our pre-built components that we currently have. And these will also grow into the future. And when we have community plugins, they will also show up here as components, or in some cases. Below that, we've got our asset manager, then your pages, and then you can turn on or off Webstudio AI. On the far right-hand side, here is your style panel. Now, this is essentially where you can change any of the designs of your page, any adjustments to your section, anything that directly impacts the CSS styling on the front end is then done through this style panel. At the top of the style panel, you'll find what are called design tokens. They are a variation on the traditional CSS class system. And I'll get into a little bit more about tokens versus classes in just a second. But in short, the token system is where you can predefine different styles you then want to reuse throughout your project. I'll give you an example here with a little style guide page that I was working on. You can see here, for example, I've created a token for an extra large heading. And instead of trying to remember how do I make all of my headings consistent, I just apply that one token. From there, on the right-hand side of that style panel, you'll then find settings. And here are the sort of extra settings that you can have to configure each of the components or instances of those components, which are on your page. So for example, with headings, you'll be able to find just simple settings with heading tags. You can add additional properties like class names, IDs, other attributes. But then when you have some more complex components like forms, you can then change those form settings, which will have additional functionality, depending on the component you're adding. So we've covered left-hand side is like your navigator, your structure of the page, where we add new components. Right-hand style is where you style those components and change their settings. Above that, in the top right-hand side, we've got our publishing options. So publishing to a Webstudio domain or publishing to your own domain. And then beside that, our sharing options. And I think this is something that will come up in conversation and in questions today. So how do you share this project with users or with customers or with other contractors? And how do you manage those permissions? A preview, our breakpoints, and then we're back where we started at the top left with then our menu and some basic site settings, favicon, custom header code, so on. So I think big picture, that covers sort of general functionality of the builder. And we might create perhaps a hero section now together, and I can show you how each of the pieces then work together.
Perfect. Like it's a giant, like, it's a rabbit hole. You keep getting into it.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so big. Let's do it.
Super cool. I might just, as I'm breaking between each of the sections of the videos, I'm just going to quickly check questions because that way there might be some relevant stuff.
Yeah, perfect. I'll let you know, once we have
Okay,
it.
super cool. All right, so just quickly checking here. Jen is asking, are you allowing Figma features? Since Webflow is kind of old news, Figma is now getting more and more interesting. Jen, I don't have a great answer or like a specific answer on Figma at the moment. Webflow and Tailwind copy paste functionality is something that we can bring because we have the technical knowledge existing on how Webflow works, how Tailwind works, and it's a pretty easy conversion for us. We are going to look into Figma features and Figma imports. And as we look into Figma, that's sort of a closer design framework-ish or workflow as Figma. So we'll include that into the research and see what we can do with importing or exporting between Webstudio. It's embarrassing. Webstudio and Figma. Valentin's asking if we will do some giveaway. We won't, but Rocket Hub might. I'll give that one back to Cron next.
Yep. You talk to us for that.
Rocket Hub team, how did you find out about Webstudio? What made you approach them? Webstudio team approached you. I think, yeah, I might let you answer that on Cron.
Yep. So Alex and the team, they reached out and he said, okay, let's talk. And once we talked, once we had the conversation on the first call itself, they're like, let's work together. Like there was no looking back. And here we are, like in just quick time. It hasn't been over a month, and we are here, crushing it together. So yeah, it's been quite a good journey.
Yeah, it's been a crazy good journey. So for some extra info for the community, we reached out to a bunch of different partners and a bunch of different marketplaces, but from AppSumo all the way through to Rocket Hub. Rocket Hub had, I'd say, the best experience in terms of meeting, greeting, documentation, onboarding, flow, just end to end was the best with Rocket Hub. And that's why we decided to stick with them and to launch this product together for Black Friday.
Perfect. I've recorded this and I'll let my editors know to kind of have this as a testimony.
No, for sure. Henry, the limits of page views let all things that is limited also for early bird high prices. We're not buyer, we are shareholders. Henry, that is somewhat true. The other side to it, and I think it is a little bit different with some of the other LTDs, is we actually have shareholders and investors that we talk to daily, or maybe not daily, but semi-frequently. And that's part of how or why we need to balance the prices. As you can imagine, they will look at what are we doing on LTD, and then they will just do, okay, divide that over lifetime of a customer and then decide if they should invest more money, which, everything in balance. So for page limits, we do have page limits. We will not be removing or changing the page limitations, but we will be adding more integrations and export functionality. And the sort of mindset that I come, at least with the way I come to the product, is like, hey, I'm getting access to a tool that is properly backed and that has a pretty, I'd say, solid future planned out with some decent limits. In the cases that I need to go above those limits, I sort of have two options. One, I can keep using the builder and I can just host the site somewhere else, which is what we currently have with the exporting. Or if I'm hitting more than 1 million views across my customers, I'm pretty sure I'm earning some good cash at that point. And it may be easier to just be like, hey, let's invest more into the cloud hosting version. But for the self-hosted version, and I'll just touch on this sort of, or close it on this, it is relatively easy to use. And you can still use all of the builder functionality, right? So you'd open up Webstudio, you build your page on Webstudio. Your publishing just goes then, instead of publishing it to our cloud, you deploy it straight to Vercel or Netlify or any other integration, build it with. So ideally, you're getting the best of both worlds at one price, but I understand the general mentality, and I'm the same as a sort of LTD investor and many LTDs on my shelf. I do like to go with the deals that say unlimited everything. good feelings. But yeah, that is where the limitations come from, but also how you can get around them in a way that doesn't impact our numbers, but hopefully it gives you a good solution. HM's asking, interested to see templates and AI generated pages. We can go through some of the AI generated stuff. Many more templates are coming in the near future. I'll give you more information on that towards the end. We may go through some questions. HM is also asking about CDNs. I'm going to leave, Cron, can you leave some notes for just questions at the end, which are a little bit deeper for me to answer?
Perfect. Yeah, of course. We'll have them at the end. We'll just focus on.
Yeah, CDN and templates are two topics that we'll take a little bit
we touch base upon at the end. Yep.
And I'll cover them. 50% discount for the attendants that buy now. Yeah.
No. No.
And then HM's also asking, man, I know your hosting server, so we use Cloudflare Edge. But stick around. I'll dive more into CDN hosting and what all of that means, as well as backups, which as I can see here is your next question. We'll cover that next. Okay, let's dive in, Cron, into building a quick page. So I'm going to use this project that I have here. I will show you how I would build it out as a newbie user, as if I had never used a page builder before. Maybe I had a little bit of HTML and CSS knowledge that I learned at high school, half paying attention in classes, so I know things exist. And I'll use a lot of the local styling, and I'll sort of walk you through how you can then improve those. But if we start then here from a blank page, now everything that you see on Webstudio, and this is by design, is sort of complete and like in full transparency of visual conversion of code. Now, it's a double-edged sword because it makes things a little bit more difficult to learn and a little bit more technical at the beginning. But in the long term, we do things this way so that as you grow and scale things, you're never needing to go back and try and figure out, why is this displayed in a certain way? Why is this button not changing color like I expect it should be changing? And this comes from experience with a lot of other builders where they would address a more entry-level market, and I think that's a good thing, which we are not, but they will add and they'll make it easier to use, but then behind the scenes, they'll add a lot of extra code and a lot of, some call it bloat, but like helpers that make it a little bit easier to use, but then much harder to scale. So Webstudio, everything that you see, everything that it outputs, everything that you get is a one-to-one conversion of what you would be doing in code. And that's how everything is then laid out. So if we were to create a hero section here on our page, we can see we have our body and then our body styling. And the way CSS styles works, it sort of cascades, right? So anything that's applied to the top layer gets applied to anything that's nested within inside of it, or any children sort of thing. So let's go and we're going to add a box here, and a box just adds a HTML div in the output of the code. And let's call this box section. And I'm going to give this a token of section. Now, this token of section is a token that I've already styled. You can see when I add it, it automatically adds some padding to the top and some padding to the bottom. Now, if I wanted to change just this specific section, I can go back and select the local style. And this then applies a change unique to this one item that's on my screen. Or if I wanted to change all of my sections, I can select my section token, and then anywhere that section token has been applied, those styles will take effect. So I'll give you a real quick example here. Let's say I duplicate my section. I'll do Control D on my keyboard. So I've got 2. And on the first one, on the local token, on the first one, on the section token, I'm going to give it a background color. So if we go here, we change the background color. You'll see, because both sections have that section token, the background color gets applied in both places. On the other hand, if I just change the local color, not the background, not this token section color, that will only be applied to that one piece, that one element, that one div, that one instance. So let's change this to blue. See here again, just that one got changed, but what we applied to the rest of that token stays the same. Okay, let's clear these out for now. We'll continue building our little hero here. Going to delete the second section, and let's remove that background color. So I can Alt-click on a value to remove, or to reset it back to its default. And I'm just going to add sort of a standard structure or a standard layout for a hero section. So we're going to add inside of our section, we'll add a container. just going to call this one container. It's easy to read. And I'm also going to add container as a token. You'll see again here, container is a token that I have predefined. And you can see I've set some padding, some margins, a max width, as well as a default width on here. Then from here, we can pretty much start adding the different components that we want to our hero section. So I'm going to start off by adding a little heading. I will just give this heading a token of, I think I have heading tokens. Yeah, let's do heading to Excel. It's a pretty big heading. That will work. That's fine. Below that, let's add some text or a little description. Oops, not another heading. So I'm going to go click on A and we are going to add, where was it? Text. I don't want to add that to the heading, actually. I want it its own. And again, here you might add then your subheading or your sub description. You could even ask Webstudio. Yeah, I'm going to ask this live, but live demos. Okay, let's give it a shot. Allow microphone. Yes. Hey, Webstudio, write a description that highlights a SaaS company that builds websites. Very much off the. Oh,
Yep.
Yep, it's picked up a microphone, which I was talking about before. There we go. Introduce the ultimate SaaS solution. So you can use the AI to flesh out descriptions, featured image descriptions, alt text, button description, like shit like that. You can then go, let's say if we wanted to make this a little bit more space and a little bit more breathable, we'll then go into our padding here. Let's add some padding above the text. Let's do 30. It's an easy one. And let's perhaps add a button, maybe a primary and a secondary call to action. So I'm going to use a link. Again, actually, I'm just going to select my container, add a link. And with this, I'm pretty sure I have a predefined link. Let's see, btn-lg. Yeah, that kind of looks okay, but not great. So let's customize this link a little bit. So again, I've selected my link and I can now go, okay, for my typography, I don't want it to be that ugly default link. I want it to be not underlined. I want it to be not blue. Say we want it to be white. And then I want it to have a background color, say bright red. So it looks like a pretty normal button. Give it a little bit more breathing room by selecting the text that's above it. Let's give that 30 pixels of padding. And then from our link, we may want to add, let's say this links to Google for some reason, but you could link it to any page, either on your website or external to a different website. https://google.com. From there, if we were to continue to sort of flesh out this hero section, I might start adding something like background images. So I could go here, let's add, not color, I want to add a background image, and then I can upload an image. I've got Star Wars images. Let's just own that we like Star Wars. Okay, cool. Let's use a Star Wars image. So you can set your background image, you can change its position, you can change how it fills the background. Do you want it to be covering, containing, repeating or not? I don't know if I can find a simple, nice spot for this background image. So I might add a nicer one for the demo. Let's see what I've got. Pictures. Okay. Lots of sci-fi. Yes, I like sci-fi. Let's just add this mountain. There we go. Okay, so let's say we added something like that. Then you could add on top of that perhaps an overlay over your background. Say I wanted to have. How do I want to add this? Sorry. Give it a little bit more breathing room. So I could select again my container here. Say we give from the container. Oops. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit nervous and then fucking up the demo. Here we go.
Everyone's enjoying right now. Everyone's
I'm
like,
glad.
what's
I'm glad.
happening? It's amazing. I'm not able to take my eyes off what's happening. Everyone's learning right now. It's
good.
Masterclass.
Thank you. Yeah, so in principle, this is how you would then start editing your sections. If you wanted to add, I'll probably give you some better examples of pre-built stuff. I've got one here where I was trialing rebuilding a video game website. You can see here, then it's pretty much the same sort of structure, right? You have your sections, your containers, and then inside of that, each of your different components. In this one in particular, we've added a video background, which I'll be able to demo once it loads. And then you can start playing around with anything that you'd be able to customize visually with code, but instead this time customizing it visually without code. I think high level, that's kind of goes through how the styling system works, how we get all of our different components. What I might add perhaps with the components is we've started with essentially all the basics and the foundations that allow you to build the web, like everything you would see in basic HTML. And you'll see this with our general sort of initial components that we launched. Plan with these components is to really make them then community-driven and allow many others in the community to start contributing their own components. And the way that we're designing this is essentially we'll build the first type of that component. We'll then build out the APIs and the systems that you need around it to build your own components. And then we'll sort of publish that and grow it together. So if we look at the Radix ones, for example, here, we launched Webstudio with a beta back in June. Initial feedback was like, hey, it's way too complicated to create simple menus or mega menus to have different pop-ups and drop-downs, accordion or FAQ features. We need an easier way to do this. So like, sweet, well, how can we build this out in a way that A, meets all the web standards, is accessible, but also in a way that we build that foundation that everyone can build on top of. And so we started with Radix, which is an existing UI kit. There's many, many UI kits that exist on the web. And we're like, all right, Radix ticks all of our boxes. It's a great component kit to get us started. It has all of the components that our users have been asking for, like those mobile menus, triggers, dialogues, pop-ups, and so on. Let's build all of these as their own components into Webstudio and start that initial process of here is how we're going to build out and allow other people to create their own components. A similar thing will come when we start looking at then the e-commerce integrations. So we will build the first e-com integration. This is almost certainly going to be with Shopify. The way that will look then inside of the builder is sort of a one-click integration. You connect your Shopify account and you can start using, in a similar way that you see Radix components here, you would then see sort of a tab with the Shopify components. And that might be product image, buy buttons, carts, checkouts, and other components unique to that one integration. That's sort of the flow and the process to grow and scale the components, but that sort of same mentality then applies to pretty much everything else that we've done, from design kits, design systems, templates. They're all sort of build that foundation and then grow together as a community. Cron, I have nervously talked through a bunch of things. Do we have any questions on this topics? Anything that I might have covered too quickly, or anything more in depth so far?
Yeah, of course. We take some questions and then we can proceed forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I think we cannot see you right now. Can you just check if your camera's working?
Oh yeah. Camera on standby every now and then.
Yep. Now we are able to.
There we go.
Okay. Yep. All right, so we'll take a pause, folks. Of course, when we started, it's a lot for you. As I said, it's a rabbit hole. Like, you keep getting into it. There's no way out. If you spend a whole day into it, it's like, it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, also I live and breathe this every day, right? And some things probably seem a little obvious to me that aren't necessarily obvious to to everyone. So I really do welcome any kind of questions. They're a great highlight for me on what do you need to document and do a better job explaining in the future as well.
Perfect. So we'll do one thing. We'll take up 5 questions and then we resume, and then we again have 5 questions. All right. So this way we have the flow going on for people. All right. So let's take some questions. Of course, we'll address the templates, hosting, and the other stuff at the end, because that's a separate topic to talk about. But I'll just read it out to you. All right.
Yeah.
So Jan is asking, can I add all the components from Shad CDN?
So great question. We haven't added all of the components. We have added some of them, and we've styled them with Shad CDN styles in our Radix component section. I'd have to check what the process is to build, if we've published everything that we need for the community to build, or if there's anything extra that we need to put out from an engineering perspective. I'll have to check with the team and come back with you on that. So answer is, yes, you can. You already can. But if it's too complicated or something's not making sense, it's just a lack of documentation or something that we need to, like an API that we need to expose and that we haven't got there yet. So just tell me if there's anything that you're missing in that process. But otherwise, I'd invite you to go check out the documentation, download perhaps the builder locally so you can start working on dev terms. And let us know, jump into the community and let us know, because our engineers and Oleg, the founder, who's also technically focused or technical focused, will be super happy to jump in and to answer any of those questions, or straight on GitHub if you prefer as well.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay, so we have a question from HM. He asks, any widget plugin to import from WordPress?
No, I will be completely transparent. I do not know if we will ever see an integration between WordPress and Webstudio. What I'd say is it's pretty unlikely that you'll see this from the core team. There has been a significant amount of requests, though, for WordPress integrations. Now, it's possible or even quite likely that the core team builds out a CMS integration for a headless WordPress. I don't think that's what most of the community is asking, though, in regards to WordPress integrations, and they want to use other WordPress plugins.
Correct.
What may happen is that this gets built out from the community or from a third party, where they see an opportunity to perhaps build, take the builder and build that on top of WordPress. They see a way to connect and sync things. From a business perspective and sort of from a co-founder perspective, the long-term goal is to get away from WordPress and is to build that platform. Like, WordPress is great. I'm still a WordPress user. I use it for some projects. I'm a big fan. I'm sure many of you have seen me in the communities there as well. It's awesome. But at its core, WordPress was still built as a publishing platform. And at its core, like, they'll never be able to get around having to build in some redundancy for all of the old tech or a lot of the old tech. And that's going to slowly progress over time. But I don't know if they'll ever get to a point where it's like, hey, we're going to completely change framework and build on a newer tech with newer functionality and something that can be deployed to the edge. And that's what we're building. We're building the platform, not publishers first, designers, developers, and like marketers first, that sort of crowd. And it's designed and built for them. The features are for them. The expandability and growth and scalability is also then more geared towards that techie crowd, and also on much newer tech. And I don't think for us it would make sense to take a technical step back just to be able to account and like grow into that user base. So I don't think so. It's a very good question, though.
Yep. People, they're already using it. So can we use something with,
Yeah.
But it's completely, they're two different worlds, right? So
yeah,
completely two different worlds. I mean, if you want to like simple kind of have a page and publishing, blog post stuff, just want to do that, have build websites, go ahead and use WordPress. But Webstudio, have some quality, speed, all of that good stuff which you get from the start. You don't have to worry about it. Once you publish it, you're good for life. That's what I would say.
Yeah. So you don't like, you would never have any of the, or at least not for now, the vulnerability stuff. Like, a lot of that will come as we grow and scale and need to maintain that community. But I'd say big picture, long term, for full transparency, the long-term strategy is to be a WordPress alternative more than it is to be a WordPress product. That makes sense.
All right, that answered well. Okay, we have a question from Ricky. Is there a difference between a class and a token other than ease of use?
At this stage, there's not a huge difference. The main difference that you'll see, especially if you're coming from Webflow, is tokens don't have any order, or like, so Webflow classes and the Webflow class system will force you into a combo class system, which means that classes are linked together. And you'll see if you edit and you want to use a more utility type or like Tailwind type approach with your naming convention or your classes, it's very hard to manage that system at scale because you can only ever add, remove, and edit classes in the same order that you added them in the first place. It's because they're all connected. So let's say I had a button, that button had a class of button, and then I had a combo class of background-white. And then on top of that, it had another combo class of text-blue. Let's imagine. If I wanted to change that background-white, I would have to first remove text blue, then remove back white, then change back white, then reapply text blue. With tokens, there is no limitation like you'd have with combo classes in the order. So you can apply utility tokens as if you're applying Tailwind classes. That's the first thing. And that's what you'll see today out of the box. As we grow tokens, the bigger piece and the more important piece in the design token system is in what happens in the future. So design tokens are a web standard. They're a relatively new web standard. They're not yet widely used, but it is a web standard that is defined and sort of structured. So there are many other platforms that also use tokens and that follow the same token structure. As we grow, the idea is this means you can integrate your design system across more than just Webstudio. So wait, have I still got you, Cron? Yep.
I think you're back. You're back.
Yep. Just let me know if I cut off. So design tokens into the future, as they will evolve, you can start to link your design system across platforms. So we use this at the moment internally, where we have our design tokens on Figma. We have our design tokens set up in the product. And if we make any changes to our styles, if our designers go and change our base gray color in Figma, that will automatically be synced to our product. The idea with the builder is to have that same synced functionality. So when you start using design kits, when you start having something built on Figma, some stuff built on Webstudio, some stuff built on VS Code, you can sync all of your designs cross-platform. And if you make a change anywhere, that change is then applied wherever you're using a UI or a design. So that's part two. Part three, I'll keep it pretty short because of the way tokens are structured. So they're, instead of just like a bunch of classes and a style sheet, tokens are sort of created in JSON, and they give us more options to optimize them long-term. So if we start to build in things like a JIT engine or just-in-time engine that clears out any tokens that are not used, that big picture optimization and scalability, way easier with tokens than just with generic CSS. Bloated question, kind of easy, long answer. Great question, though.
Oh, man. I think that's like coming in from, of course, from a lot of experience that speaks up. Like when you know the product well, when you know your stuff well, there's nothing to worry about. All right. So you have a question from Joseph. He asks, how are animations handled inside Webstudio?
Great question. So today we just have transitions, which is like hover effects. What happens when a button, for example, or a text is hovered over, is active, has been clicked before, hasn't been clicked. We added these, I think, about 10 days ago. We added them to the product. So everything's coming slowly. We do have a plan for a complete animations manager or interactions manager, kind of like what's available on Webflow and Figma at the moment. The path that we're heading at this stage is to create a visual interface for GSAP or a visual interface for a library called Motion 1, which is the library that powers Framer, or the same creator. That will look, for those of you that are familiar, most likely like the platform called Motion Page. Not sure if you've used it or seen it. It's a visual interface for WordPress. And they convert GSAP code into that nice, easy to use design. It's likely that we'll have an interface closer to that than what is on Webflow at the moment. And that's just from internal conversations with the team. And we're not super big fans of the way interactions were designed from like a layout and look and feel. And it's a little bit all cramped and shit like that. So that is coming in 2024. In between now and then, we're working with some good partners to build in animation functionality from third parties. So there's a company called light move, I think. I have to just double check. I've got to open this. Actually, I can just check here. Light move by Soft Light. They're also a big WordPress developer. You might have seen them around on Black Friday. They are working on a GSAP animation engine. We are working with them to get that integrated and working with Webstudio. And then that will be sort of our short term. Hey, here's a third party. They work seamlessly and they allow you to just create the animation, click export, and then add that exported code pretty seamlessly to your Webstudio project. Into the new year and into 2024, we'll share more details of what the animation system looks like, but it's going to be a full-blown animation system. It's not going to be just like little hover effects and small interactions. It will be a complete solution. More details to come. It's probably the best.
Yep. So for that, you can
follow
the roadmap. Yeah, so follow the roadmap of Webstudio where they're going. It's on the website. It's public, so you can go ahead and see it. Where they're at the journey right now, what's coming up next.
Yeah.
And you would get the glimpse of where the product is heading.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I would say our roadmap is mostly ordered in features top to lowest priority. So you can see what we're working on at the moment. We've got a pretty clear roadmap for the rest of this year. And then we'll start from the top of that list in early 2024. We may reorganize some stuff based on community feedback or how much interest there is towards one specific feature. But I think that roadmap's should give you a good idea of what to expect in like the first half of next year.
Perfect. All right, that's amazing. I think the first set of questions we answered very well. We can continue with, showing the people the product, and then we come back to the questions later. Is it amazing questions?
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and I agree. Thank you all very much for the questions. So if we dive back into the product, let's continue off and we can walk through what does the publishing look like, how to connect your domain, how does that all sort of function and work. Then we can do some more questions and perhaps we can close it off on the product side with how do you integrate Webstudio to other platforms? How can you use webhooks? How do you get your form data into your CRM or any other sort of integration angle from there?
Perfect. Cool. You can share your screen again.
Yep. Jumping in now. So I am going to give you an example of publishing this, and we'll just remap sort of the domain and I'll walk you through how that flow looks like. So once you've built out your pages, you go through your site. The general sort of flow will look like I build out a page. I'm happy with the way this page looks now. I then go check out the design on different breakpoints. I may even want to add additional breakpoints, which you can do from the menu here. You can go to breakpoints and then you can add mobile first, desktop first, any sizes you want. But I go through, I check, I'm like, okay, I'm pretty happy with this. I might want to share it to my designer or my customer for some initial feedback before we go live. To do that, we can do is click on this share button. And now this share button offers up share links that can be customized in 3 ways. And this is sort of how we collaborate with people. And I'll go into a little bit more of why we did it this way. But essentially you go here, go share link, add a new share link. Let's just say that this is Rocket Hub's landing page and I am sharing it to you, Cron. So I'll go, this is Karen's link. And for you, I want to give you build permissions. What the build permissions would do is that would allow you to open up the page, edit the page, but not publish the changes of the page live.
Perfect.
If I just wanted to get some feedback from you, I could go straight for view permissions, and then that just allows you to see the project. Or if I wanted to give you full access to be able to edit anything, create anything, publish everything, I could also give you admin permissions straight from here.
All right. Now, so you become more powerful as you go down this.
Yeah, pretty much. Now, we've designed it this way for 2 reasons. One, security is super, super important and a big time investment. And this is why we also are delaying and pushing back things like a more simpler login screen and our own 2-factor authentication, our own security systems to make sure your sites don't get hacked. This way essentially allows you to easily share links without having to do all the account management, billing management, add different people to the platform, and create as many links as you need that are unique for all the different types of people would need a link for. As we expand this, longer term, we will look into more traditional workspaces, working on things that way. But for now, this should cover most of those use cases. And then we'll also look into additional restrictions, functionality, views that we may want to include with collaboration and sharing product. There's a lot more into collaboration, which I can get to if we have more questions on it in the future, but it's like its own whole topic. Now, assuming I've shared my link to the Rocket Hub team, they have gone in, they've made their changes, they've sent it back, they're like, sweet, let's go publish. I can go ahead and then publish my changes. Now, right now I can publish it straight to a Webstudio domain. This is included in all plans, it's completely free, or I can map my own domain. Or I can export, but exporting we'll do next. Now, if I wanted to map my own domain, all I need to do is type in my domain name. So let's go what we had before, which is creator.gg, which is a domain that we have. Add that, and it will now give us the CNAME and the text record to add to our domain DNS provider, or we can like automatically configure it with entry. So I'll show you both, but essentially configure automatically will just go, hey, here's a little pop-up that allows you to map and select your DNS provider, and then it will add all of the DNS configurations for you. If you've never used it before, it just makes it a lot easier. So you can see here, okay, my one's on Cloudflare. Please don't show my password. I don't think it will. Hopefully. Beep, boop, beep, boop. Okay. Oh, no, don't look. There we go. There we go. So it'll come up like this and it'll be like, hey, do you want to change these records from what you had? And do you want to authorize the new records? So you can go here, and then that's sort of the automatic process. If you didn't want to do it automatically, you can just go straight back to your DNS provider. So, whoops. Let me open that back up. Cloudflare. So I use Cloudflare for my DNS management, but it's pretty much the same process with just about every provider. You'd go into your DNS provider, go find your DNS settings, and then you just want to map the records that it gives you here. So you can see give CNAME, the value is at, and the value, the name is at, and the value is what we have here. So I'll just copy that, jump over to Cloudflare, type CNAME, the name we said it was at, and then the target is the target we had here. You can leave it proxied, not proxied. That doesn't really make a difference because we are also on Cloudflare. And then you do the same thing to add your text record. Takes, in general, about 10 minutes for a domain DNS propagation to go through. So essentially, once you make the name changes with your DNS provider, it can take about 10 minutes for those changes to be applied across the internet. Generally, it goes through in about 10 minutes. Some providers can take a little bit longer. If it's not working, give it up to 24 hours. DNS sometimes just takes time, and providers. Once you've got all that mapped out, then you can check status. Webstudio will then tell you, okay, it matches. Well, in this case, it doesn't because I'm remapping it. And then once it is matching, you can go ahead and publish the site. When it is publishing the site, it takes a little bit longer than other providers because it publishes your site not to a single server. It publishes your site to like 270 servers. And then again, we'll go more into detail on how that all works. But the idea is you get as fast load times and as little latency, regardless of where you are anywhere in the world, and regardless of how much you're scaling your product and how many visitors and shit you're getting. Okay. I think that pretty much covers sharing,
Yep,
final reviews,
perfect.
and publishing.
Yep. Awesome.
We'll go back to questions.
Sure, let's do it. Perfect. I'll just add some questions over there.
Yeah.
So we begin from HM asking about what about the site speed and the SEO aspects?
Yeah. Okay. I'll touch on how the hosting and how the server and speed works now, because I think it's probably a good connection to all of this.
Yep.
We'll touch on SEO first because it's probably easier. SEO, all of the SEO options you can control from Webstudio. You have essentially all of your heading tags that can be controlled directly in the component settings, or any of the additional SEO metadata, site titles, descriptions, sitemaps, robots text, indexing, unindexing, all that can be controlled within pages. One of the most important aspects in optimizing for SEO is page speed and load times. Now, I'll go with me on a little bit of a journey and I'll walk you through how I learned about this, going from an agency guy building his first website through to where I'm at today and why this is the only way in my head to move forwards in terms of web development and platform building and all that kind of shit. So I started about 10 years back, not knowing how to code, not knowing anything, building my very first WordPress site, super proud, on some cheap ass $2 a month hosting, and being super happy with my 21-second load times because that was all I knew. And I thought it was already great that I had a site on board. Shortly after that, I learned about CDNs. Now, a CDN is essentially, you have your base website server, and then it will share a cached version of your site. So it will like save the CSS, some of the image files, and some of the HTML. It will save that on a CDN network. So there's like a screenshot of your picture on all of these different servers across the world. When someone then tries to access your website, what will happen is it will go first to the CDN network and it will pick up, okay, here's the cached version. Let's serve that to them really quickly. And then anything else that has more dynamic data will then go back to the main host and it will load it from that host's location. I discovered CDNs. CDNs were super cool. My 20-second load time website is now at like 4 seconds. I was still super proud. In reality, it's pretty trash. I then discovered optimization, specifically around images. So at this point, I've got my host, I've got my CDN, and I'm like, okay, what is this image optimization stuff? How does it all work? Well, essentially, browsers like you to tell them what the image size is. And then modern browsers like you to serve images in certain formats. Few reasons. Let's start with the size. Essentially, what you see on some sites, and I'm sure many of you have seen it before, is you'll load a site and you'll notice as it's loading, content on that site is moving around and it's shifting. I think it's called CLS, cumulative layout shift, or something like that in speed metrics. But it's essentially when you don't define a site or tell the browser what an image size is, it won't take up any space. And then when the image loads, it takes up that space.
Yep.
How optimized that image is will change how fast it loads, right? Which in turn then affects your overall speed. So I figured out, okay, optimize images by converting them to modern formats, so AVI-F and WebP, compress them using some of the new modern compression tools. So we use Cloudflare's compression, but there are many other tools like TinyPNG. There's many WP Smush, WordPress ones as well. So we compress the image, we convert it to the right format, and then we specify the image's dimensions in the builder so that when that image needs to load, it loads in an optimized way. And then you also have lazy loading and like other image optimizations, but that's like a whole other lecture. We'll get into that later. So at this point, I'm now at like 3-second load time. I've got my original server now connected to my CDN and distributing. Locally, I'm optimizing all of my images and things are going pretty good. And then I scale. And suddenly there's a spike in usage at one spot. It doesn't matter if you're using a CDN, like it will try to propagate that stuff, but ultimately it hits my $2 super cheap server. Everything tanks, everything's slow again. World's on fire, clients complaining. Then I discovered edge networks. And edge networks is like the combination of all of this put into mini computers all around the world. Now, with edge networks, instead of doing that journey from client device or user device to CDN cached version to main server, and then like whatever other connections you have with images or other assets, deploying it straight to the edge means your entire website, the entire project, all the files, all of the dynamic data lives at the closest possible location of the user that's trying to reach it. It's not doing that additional step back to your main server. You've got now hundreds of servers essentially around the world. And so at scale, the way this looks is you're never having one server that gets overloaded. If you ever get one node or like one location that gets too much traffic, the network will automatically split that traffic across different nodes. So it manages load and spikes a lot better. And then it does the image optimization, the asset optimization, the compression, minimization of all the files, dynamic data, all that stuff on its own little node that's the closest to the user. And that's what creates the fastest possible load times and the lowest possible latency with websites at scale.
Man, yep. I think, yeah, that's it. Like, that's how you basically explain what Webstudio does, like, for you.
Yeah.
So makes like and then you don't have to invest a lot of time kind of, using compression tools. Once you upload something, it's automatically compressed, stuff like that. So
yeah,
that's it. I think that's the convenience you get when you use Webstudio.
Yeah, it also ties into the way we bundle and exporting your files, right? So exporting remix files means that you can deploy Webstudio sites on other edge networks. So if you wanted to use this kind of infrastructure, you can also use it. If you wanted to take your Webstudio site and use Vercel's edge network instead of our edge network, beep, boop, beep, deploy, connect to edge network, done. Nothing else for you to do. That's part of why not just static CSS and HTML, but remix apps and the integration. All of it. Sorry. Next question.
Awesome. Yep, that's good. Okay, so we have two questions, but I combine into one. Okay, we can answer that quick.
Go for it.
We have Jen's asking, will the big Relume components library will be integrated? First, really deep integrated with Figma and Webflow at the moment. But we have to see this happen with Webstudio. I think it's the same. Two people asking the same question.
Yep. Likely, very likely. I can't. So I'll tell you, like, complete transparency. In where we're at in terms of importing, exporting, and templates. Right now, we have figured out, and we've got the process set up for Tailwind copy paste straight to Webstudio, as well as Webflow copy paste straight to Webstudio. The idea behind the two of these is these are the two platforms, or these two platforms have an audience that is similar to our core audience and being a little bit more technical, but they also have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of templates and integrations and like built-in systems like you have with Relume and Figma. Like all of those integrations are already built. Why try to rebuild the integrations for Webstudio when we could just build an integration to something they already have integrated? So the idea with this is, yes, it will be possible. We haven't tried it yet. We're missing CSS grid, and this is the missing feature that we need to implement to be able to then actually implement copy paste from Tailwind and Webflow, because they both have grid.
Yep.
Grid in itself we're trying to implement it in a way that is visually super and not just like a drop-down box that's like select grid, columns and rows, like something that you can visually see a grid, more like what you have on Webflow, but a sort of next level than that. And that's why it's taking a little bit longer to develop and get grid out, because it's something we want to do right. Once it's out, then we can start rolling it out with the integrations. Now, I can almost guarantee that on day one, the first template provider that we integrate with will be FlowSpark. FlowSpark or Tailspark. That's a component provider that provides templates for both Webflow as well as Tailwind. We met up with their founder, his name's Andy, about a month and a bit ago. We have a great relationship. We're all super keen. We have like an aligned future. We want this to work. It should go really well. Same conversation didn't happen with all, or like didn't go so well with all of the other providers that we reached out to, because I think I've hit almost all of the big template providers. And with Relume, the conversation was sort of along the lines of, hey, we're pretty focused on Webflow at the moment. And they're a big agency partner. There's a lot of other ties that happens into that. So We will work to build a Reloom integration, provided that we can make it work with the Webflow integration. That's probably the most likely thing. But otherwise, we will have a very similar setup with FlowSpark or TailSpark, and also with the AI as we start to use those components, training our AI on those components, and then allowing it to generate more complex and better designed layouts. So answer the question, maybe Reloom, pretty likely early in 2024, but if it's not with Reloom, we'll have an alternative that offers the same experience.
Yep, perfect. Amazing. So, yep, I think that's you nailed it. So there's one more question about any email integration within the environment. Yeah, with let's say any like Active Campaign or MailChimp or stuff like that.
Yeah, I'll answer to sort of this question on two fronts. I'm pretty sure, what was it, WebWave, the platform that launched on AppSumo. From what I understand, I haven't tested this yet, but what I understand, they are offering an email client, like an email provider, directly within the builder. It's very unlikely that this will be a thing with Webstudio, perhaps something that the community builds. But in general, I'm pretty confident that most freelancers, agencies, marketers have their own email system already. And an email system that's designed to scale and build and work with the way that they work, right? So it's probably not something that we'll focus on building immediately into Webstudio today. In the future, maybe, because CRMs are a pain and I want to disrupt that market after we get through this market, and fuck, they charge way too much money, and that's a whole other conversation, but baby steps. Do we integrate with different email providers? Yes. Almost every single one you can integrate with webhooks. I have a video that went out yesterday on Zapier. I have a video going out next week on Pabbly, one next week on Shore Triggers as well, if you want to use automation platforms. And I'll do a couple of demos with big CRM providers or mailing providers like MailChimp, HubSpot, and so on and so on. Today, webhooks works really, really well because there's no weird black box shit that happens in the background. It's pretty much, they will give you a webhook URL to use, you copy it, you paste it into your Webstudio form, done. Connected and synced to X integration platform.
It's more easier than like integrating with all that stuff, connecting, and then
there's literally less clicks than doing the native integration button that you need to authorize your account and go through this. But that's it. We are going to be doing native integrations in the coming months. We met with N8N and their team yesterday. I think it was last night. And so we'll be building out some native built-in integrations outside of webhooks. Community will probably build out more like they did with Netlify. And then also just webhooks at the moment. It's so easy to use, and that does 90% of the platforms, I think, for our current use case. I hope that answers the question.
Yep, it did. Awesome. Okay, so our design kits coming and more components, Figma design component library, both would be amazing.
Yeah, let me show you what, so this is super early, right? But this is what is in conversation at the moment. I'm going to open up TailSpark as an example.
All right,
and I'll just share my screen. So the plan with design kits and components is a little bit different than what other platforms are doing. We don't want to be the ones building every single template. It's a waste, like it's not the best use of our time, right? But we want to offer you a shit ton of templates. So the way we're going to be doing it is we're integrating with big template providers. We have built some base templates just to show how templates can be built and can be made. And we will launch a marketplace for any other designers who want to resell their own templates. They can do that, and they can keep 100% of the profits to them if they want to sell it, or if they want to use it for lead gen, or however they want to create the templates. We will create a marketplace, so there will be an ecosystem around that. Now, I'll just share my screen to give you an example of what I mean by integrating with a design platform. So instead of coming up and being like, hey, this week we launched this new SaaS landing page template. Cool story, very slow progress. we want to go straight to platforms like this with TailSpark that have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of templates, and then build an integration straight within the Webstudio builder so that you could go into your Webstudio editor. You can go, instead of just components, you'd have layouts.
That's amazing.
And then you choose your libraries that you want to be connected to your sites, and then you can just import your layouts that way. We'll also do copy paste, as I mentioned before, but yeah, that's the plan with templates. You should start seeing some of this in early 2024 as we wrap up CMS development.
That's the like, that should be one enough reason to like get Webstudio right now. Like you're integrating with you and then getting the templates. Like that's crazy. I think amazing.
Yeah, I think it's a good, and it builds like cross communities. We get to meet other founders, and it's a good way. In general, I like this transparent, open, community first way of building, and let's build things at scale together instead of me hiding in a little corner and then unveiling something one day. Anyhow, yeah, that's the general idea. Good question.
Sitting in a basement and coding stuff like no one knows.
Yeah. No, we try. You'll notice actually this across even marketing. Most of the work that I do is public. It's on GitHub. It's in issues. There is issues for just about every partnership we're working on, deal that we're trying to close, new marketing strategy that we have. And the same goes for docs, product, documentation, design, everything, open book for anyone else to contribute, criticize, improve.
Good, and I added an FAQ yesterday on on our page that if you like to learn, if you like to engage as to how people are building websites with Webstudio, go and join the Discord, or even go and join the GitHub and see what people are discussing. Like you would find a lot of ideas, a lot of new websites built. That way you can use them as inspiration and build your own stuff. So yeah, go ahead and hang out in GitHub. You hang out on Netflix. Go and hang out on GitHub one day. That would give you more ideas.
Yeah, amazing. Come pop by. I'd say GitHub's probably a little bit more developer. Like we try to make it as accessible to everyone, but a lot of the more developer-centric conversations tend to happen there. And then otherwise in our community, we get conversations daily from everything from how to connect my domain, how to publish a site, all the way through to how do I self-host the builder and edit custom files and do more complicated engineering stuff.
Perfect. All right, cool. So I think we can come back to questions later. What you can show people is the site settings, right? And where they can add the custom scripts. Because let's say if someone is sending traffic and they want to pixel people, how would they do that?
That is a great question. Okay, so I will go back to screen sharing.
Perfect.
So this was our last, I'd say, bigger feature release. So it was all of our SEO settings and social sharing settings. Now you find a couple of new options. So if you go into your menu up here, then head over to your site settings, you'll see here that you have your base site name. That's just your site title. Favicon. I think most of us know what a favicon is, but just in case you don't, it's the little icon that appears in the on the tab at the top beside the title of your website. And then we have just the custom code section, the header code that you want applied all pages on your site. So that covers the basic of like the big picture stuff that would be global across the website. Then we have individual page settings. So on your pages, like on page SEO sort of thing, you can customize any of the tags, any of the, well, actually, I'll just show you. So I'll choose, for example, my heading here. I can go into settings, I can change the tag, or I can add additional properties. And then same for like divs or other sections. If I wanted to change the div tag to the section, nav, main component, whatever it is, I can also do that here. All of the settings that you should need to change exist in custom properties. You also can then customize your page SEO settings. So if we go into our trial build page here, you'll see here we've got a little preview on how things will look like once they start ranking on search. And again, here I can customize my site title. Let's just say I have hello world. I can add a description. You can see that updates the preview as I'm typing it in. And then I can say, exclude this page from search results, which will remove it from sitemap and add the exclusions via robots. Or if you just leave it as it is normally, it will include it in sitemap and robots. You then have your social share image, which you can apply from here. And again, same thing, that will generate a little preview based on how this card could look when you share it on social networks. And then lastly, we have metadata pairs. And this is any other metadata. It's typically used in search for additional search schema, or in socials if you wanted to change, for example, the way a card looks on Twitter or X, where they have two options. You could make a link display as like a full image, or you could make a link display as like a card with the title and description. You can add those as custom metadata in here. And then the combination of those plus the auto optimization of the images, speed, performance, compression, all of that other shit, is what generates quality SEO output and results. Think that big picture covers it?
Perfect. That's it. Yep. Amazing. All right. So we take few more questions, and then we'll have like one or two questions which from the community. Of course, then and of course we have a lot of stuff to do, but we try to wrap it up very fast.
Yeah, we can. All right. I'm happy to do rapid fire as well if you've got at the end. Perfect. Like I can do some more in-depth ones now, and then before we wrap up, just some quick quick answers.
All right. So we have like a question from Jens asking, what is the long-run vision for AI generation inside of Webstudio?
So the vision behind Webstudio's AI, I'll start with that, is for it to be your assistant, not your replacement. It will evolve and it will do more advanced functionality into the future, but the core of it and the idea that we had behind it was much closer to what you see with like GitHub Copilot over I don't know what's a Elemental AI, or like what's his name? Adam Prizer has a new AI site builder. I've forgotten what it's called. WP Static, maybe? Anyway, I forget. Yep. It's not a full AI builder. It's not designed. Yeah, Zip WP. Thanks, Joe. It's not designed to be a full replacement, right? And that's very much back tied to the type of people that are typically using the builder. They're more advanced professionals building tailored custom stuff, whether that's on the marketing front or design front or development front. So AI first will be the assistant. It will be the type of thing that you want, that I envision having like as a voice, and it's why we also have voice. Like the guy that you could just talk to as like your junior designer to be like, hey man, update all the colors to our darker shade, fix all the alt text on my website, rearrange these sections, rewrite this text. That's the original idea and the concept behind the AI. As it grows, and also as OpenAI opens up additional functionality and features and things that we can integrate with, the AI is going to follow. The first iteration and like big update that I think you'll see will be around templates and designs, and moving from its currently quite limited section generation with not a lot of design skill to something that has been trained on previous designs and that gives you an output closer to what you can currently expect with Reloom. So sort of that middle ground. And from there, I think it will only just keep growing. What you need to know, I think, as a foundation is that AI has access to all the components and understands the components' data. And I think that's going to be the main differentiator if you take that information and then you scale it. So if you imagine into the future, as you get Shopify integrations, other CMS integrations, all these other partners that we can start working with, the AI will understand those integrations, understand those partners, that you can start asking it to do things that are more than just create a cool page. Create, I don't know, I'm imagining this, and this is into the future, so I don't know for sure, but like the idea is more along the lines of like, hey, what can I do to improve performance, like conversion optimization on this page? And it has access to tools for countdown timers and pop-ups and shit that would improve conversions, and it knows what those tools do, and then you can integrate them that way. So summary, it's much more of an assistant in its design than a full-blown designer. we never want it to be something that people think of as a replacement of our jobs. We want it to be something that people think of as an improvement to our skill set or an acceleration to our skill set. Long term, I'd imagine it to be quite powerful, being that it understands everything that is built into the builder at the moment, and it will understand those integrations and components and only gain more knowledge over time.
Perfect. Awesome. Yep. Then we have a question from Joseph. He asks, can you do custom schema markup around?
Yeah, you can just add it as either header tags or meta tags. For the most part, I'm pretty sure all schema fits into meta tags or schema title, whatever, and then description.
Yeah, then I think you have, and the meta has the most schema information, the review and stuff like that.
But like adding them. So if I was to go back to, I'll just quickly show you within the builder.
Yep.
For the most part, and just tell me if any of this doesn't work, because everything that I've been able to find, I've worked it out this way. But essentially go into your page setting, and then whatever the property and the content is from the scheme that you're trying to implement, just add it there.
Yep. I think, this is where you can add schema information.
Yeah. We will, as we release variables and bindings over the next month or so, you'll be able to have additional variables and like custom data that fits into that, but it's super early 2024 conversation. Like January is when we'll look to introduce and unveil those kind of features.
Awesome. Great. All right. So we'll have one question from Kunal. He asks, how's the speed compared to raw programming when deployed on Webstudio, both in live performance and deployment?
I'm assuming you're asking how does the speed compare as if I just coded a site.
Coded, yeah. When it's raw coded and then you deployed it on server, and then compared to when you build it on Webstudio.
I think that the easiest way I can put it, man, is if you are hand coding remix apps, it's the exact same thing, which is like super high end. Anything else, even if you're hand coding all your static sites, you're hand coding single page apps that aren't this type of, doesn't have this kind of setup, it will always be slower, even if you're hand coding it. There's so much that the platform does to optimize from the edge delivery network, remix apps themselves. And maybe later I'll share the screen of remix, but like the way they work, the way they allow your apps to grow and scale to millions of users without ever slowing down, plus the image optimization, compressions, and all of that other stuff, it would be hard for someone, even hand coding, to outperform what comes from Webstudio. But also, you should know, Webstudio doesn't add any black box magic, right? When it generates your site, literally every component that you see on, I'll just go back to that little screen share, like everything that you see here in the navigator, each of these elements on the outputted site is only that element and only the style that you've applied to it. There is no additional code that ever gets applied. There is no hidden optimization, weird magic shit. It is literally the exact same as if you were coding a site, but it's done visually. And that's plus all the other bonus things. So yeah, in summary, it would be hard to beat Webstudio's optimization at scale, especially as we start to do things more web appy with dynamic data, CMS, e-commerce, that kind of stuff. I'm pretty confident in saying that it's good. I care about speed in summary.
Of course. If you don't have speed, if you're using on money, using on customers, everything.
It's one of our key differentiators also for investors when we go into meetings is like, hey, this is how everyone else does it. This is the new way.
Just, for the investors, just tell them to open a site made with WordPress that goes super slow and see the reaction, and then make them open something from Webstudio and see the reaction.
I think the main thing is though, right? Because I came from a hyper performance mind, right? Like those who know me before Webstudio probably knew me from Nintu, and everything I was doing there was like performance first, build templates and things that are pre-optimized, load as fast as possible. On like level 1, it's relatively easy to do. Build a static site, you do really good optimization and everything, that works fine. It's really once things start to scale, both from a traffic perspective, but also a functionality. And like, I'm sure, Cron, you guys have seen this as well with, once you get hundreds of users on a WordPress instance, they're all checking out at the same time.
Error 5, establishing a database connection.
Yeah, and that's never.
If you don't have a good hosting, if you have poor hosting,
yeah,
then you are done. Let's say you took a good at hosting.
Yeah.
Oh, like God's sake. And you're like, okay, I'm done.
No, that's right. So none of that will be an issue at scale. I think you can expect in general, if you do like zero optimization, for a site to always load in under a second and a half, regardless of what you're doing on it. Unless you do some weird, crazy shit, but like 99% of use cases, yes, it will be like well optimized out of the box, even if you don't do any optimizations. And then, like, I can't highlight this enough because we've talked so much in the community about exporting and self-hosting. The optimized project applies also to self-hosting. Like, you're exporting that optimized package, and then if you host it on like Vercel, which is an exceptional provider, they have great limits on their free tier, you still get all those benefits. You can still get the edge network delivery. So it applies both core builder on our network, on our cloud, you get all of this built in. But even if you were exporting and you wanted to manage that yourself, you still get the optimizations outside of our own infrastructure.
Perfect.
Let's stay with our infrastructure. It's better.
All right, amazing. Okay, so we go through a rapid fire, rapid round for rest of the questions.
Yes.
Like quick 10, 30 seconds answer, and then we'll move on to one final thing, which is you can show people how to export. Let's say, if you build something and want to export it, how does it take place inside Webstudio? And then we'll have our final announcement about why you shouldn't miss the lifetime deal of Webstudio Rocket. All right, so if you want, you can see the Q&A box, and I think, or if you want me to read it out, I can do that.
Yeah. I'll go through just from top of the box, and I'll jump through all of them rapid fire.
Perfect.
So, HM's asking, interested to see the templates and AI generated pages. HM, go check out our YouTube channel, or our documentation, docs.webstudio.is, and we've got some great examples of, I think, good use cases with the AI, as well as our base templates listed there. Chen is asking, why lifetime deal? That's a great question. I'll give a long story short. Initially, the plan when we started with Rocket Hub was actually to it was purely a user generation strategy. Let's get as many users as we can. As we explored the deal more and we looked at the different offers, we went from, hey, let's not just do user generation, let's also create something that brings a lot of value to this core audience. In retrospect, I can now look at this and be like, this is such a good decision because we've had so much really good quality product feedback, even new user contribution, activity, all of that shit that comes with a new audience, and it's been great. And that is why lifetime deal, and I would recommend it to other SaaSes starting. But otherwise, it's generally a SaaS model, right? We are VC backed, angel backed. They have high expectations on ARR revenue. And so we will be focusing very much on a model along the lines of what Webflow offers with its different tiers, but just not lock you into crazy enterprise prices and allow you to export whenever you want. HM, what is the frequency of our regular backups? I will have to check this with our dev team. I am not 100% sure. Otherwise, we do have versioning planned, potentially along the lines of what we'd have with like branches and Git on the dev side, something like that for Webstudio, where you'd be able to publish different versions and go back to a history of previous versions. Brett is asking, sorry, I don't understand newer technology. No problem at all, Brett. How would something show automatic blogs WordPress work with this? How about make forms? Brett, no problem at all. Automatic blogs, not something that we have at the moment. We are working on a CMS, which is essentially an interface to allow you to connect blogs and to easily manage blogs. We are also working on a variables manager and dynamic data binding. So if you didn't want to have a full CMS and you just wanted something like collections, like Airtable, or Excel as your CMS to manage your data, you'll be able to do that too. It should ship later this year, if not super early January. It's something that is currently being worked on, and we're nearing that shipping date and testing. Hanny is asking, will you be arranged to go high level if you build it, and what will happen to... Wait, maybe GHL is not go high level, and I just keep seeing go high level. To be
no, yeah, I think you might be right.
Are you... I can't tell if you're talking about our open source license or if you're talking about go high level,
go high level.
Henry.
If you're Hanny, just let us know in the questions if you can, if you're talking about go high level or the build. We can then come back to that question.
Yeah, well, I'll come back to you, Henry, but let me know. Go high level, if it is about go high level, we want to... Yes, we 100% want to partner with them. I haven't reached out to them yet. It won't impact LTD holders if we do. Joseph is then asking...
He's talking about go high level. He confirmed.
Okay. I want to talk to them. I haven't spoken to them yet. If you have someone to put me in touch with them, please tell me, and I will start that conversation.
Awesome.
Are you working out discount with Tailwind for LTD buyers? Tailwind shouldn't be paid. I'm assuming you're talking about Tailwind templates, Joseph.
Correct.
If you are talking about Tailwind templates, we are either going to have discounts or we're just going to have template libraries for free, especially for our pro users, which is what you get with the LTD. I can't tell you for sure on all the other libraries that we want to integrate. I can tell you for sure that Tailwind's library, so Tailwind UI, the one built by the Tailwind team, will not have any kind of discounts. Great relationship with them, super kind people. They don't want to spend too much time on partnerships and the UI stuff, and I totally understand, and they're very focused on the actual product Tailwind at the moment. If this changes, like, we'll maintain that relationship with them. If it changes in the future and there is the opportunity to integrate Tailwind UI directly into Webstudio, we will do that. I don't think it's very likely that they change the way their terms operate or their pricing model, specifically with Tailwind UI. But there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other templates that are just as good, and they will be integrated. Jan Presser is asking, have you looked into StoryPress? I have. It's been a very requested thing with LTD holders. It's unlikely to be the first integration as a CMS. For CMS as the first integration, we are aiming to launch with two. One that's open source that you can self-host, and one that just has a really good cloud SaaS plan that is on par with what Webflow offers with their pro tier CMS. We have not confirmed them yet because we are talking with their teams to try and negotiate prices. There are some CMS providers like Strappy. I probably shouldn't say this. Okay, I'm saying it. It's too late now. I'm fucked. Anyway, there are some CMS providers like Strappy we really want to work with. And they have plans to introduce a pricing tier that would work for us, but we're a little bit too soon for them. And the conversation at the moment is around, how do we convince you to move that original plan that you had on pricing that would work, essentially be free for our users? How do you bring it forwards to January so that we can line up the launch? That kind of conversation is happening with a few CMS providers, and that is why we don't have a finalist selected yet, but they'll come pretty quick. So as Oleg and I are discussing the partnership agreements with the providers, the dev team are implementing variables, bindings, and all, like, building out the APIs and shit that needs to happen. So once one is selected, it should be a relatively quick integration for us to just quickly build out, and then also open it up for the community to build integrations to any other CMS provider that they want to. A little bit longer of an answer. Can I trigger API requests within Webstudio and integrate like OpenAI to my website? You can't integrate your own OpenAI key at the moment. It was something we looked into. The reason why you can't is because I think, I'd have to double check this with the team, but by memory, it's because there are limitations to what you can do with the model if you're not using your own AI key. And that's why we couldn't make it open to anyone. It may be something that changes in the future. AI stuff is changing so quickly, and our version is really much an alpha at the moment. This may be something that happens in the future. Otherwise, rest of the API stuff, 100%, jump into the community. There's already some stuff documented there, as well as in our docs. Engineers would love to talk to you about it. And there will be APIs for all of the other functionality as we get through it and through our backlog.
Perfect.
Jen is asking, Jen is also asking, will the AI features be unlimited for us LTD buyers? They will not long-term. So AI functionality will always be included in the Pro tier. So the ability to use Webstudio AI. As things change, and this is a space that's changing very, very fast, so I can't give you long-term predictions, but it's either going to go down a road of a credit system where you can purchase additional credits to use additional Webstudio AI and you get a base amount of credits included every month with the LTD, or it will be a way that you can supply your own API key. At the moment, we pay for all OpenAI usage. We can only do this for so long until we start
you hit the limit.
Cost us too much, right? And we can't do that forever on an LTD. So in general, with the LTD, anything that we can maintain without it costing us crazy amounts of money will always be included in the product for free for LTD users. In fact, we'll try to always do as much as we can for the lowest price tier. So even for our hobby users, we'll try to include as much as we can, but there's some stuff that just makes more sense for pro users and we need to make money somehow, right? So AI included, yes. Unlimited, no. What are the limits? At the moment, it's unlimited. Once we do set a limit, it will be something that is as reasonable as I can make it or as close to cost as I can get it.
Perfect. Amazing, man. That's awesome.
Awesome. All right, a few more. I got 5 left. Can we fully edit code, JS, HTML as a professional developers inside the tool? We have a HTML embed. You can edit the HTML embed. You can locally, you can download the builder and download all the files from the builder and edit that through GitHub. It's a little bit beyond my technical, marketing, emotional brain, not dev, logical, other side founder. But jump into the community. Engineers will there's a lot of questions about this in the community at the moment.
Yep.
Color, how can a dumbass like myself build a site easily with this? Are there currently any templates? I mean, sorry, Color, sorry, don't be sorry, all good. There are not many templates at the moment. I would say Webstudio, if compared to Webstudio really has a technical level that is quite close to Webflow, and it's something that we are constantly balancing between. We never want a black box situation where you don't know what is happening with the website, where you don't see the code or you're not changing something directly. Where there's code happening, but you don't know it's happening. That should never happen. That does create some limitations where there is a higher technical barrier to entry. In the future, January, early next year, as we start rolling out templates, this will be way easier. At the moment, it's definitely beneficial if you either know some HTML and CSS fundamentals. You don't need to know how to code, but just understand how code works and how the box model, everything on the web as boxes works. If you get that, you should be pretty good. Or if you're willing or wanting to learn HTML and CSS, the skills that you gain through Webstudio are directly translatable to any other coding stack, right? There's no magic. It's just, if you see a button that says make padding 20 pixels in CSS, it's doing padding ... 20 pixels and applying that CSS. So platform to learn, yes. Know some technical, a little bit, yes. We're not yet at a state that it's easily accessible to complete beginner, newbie friendly. And it probably won't be the main priority super long term. We really want to serve professionals. That's the goal in the long run.
Okay.
But we'll try to make the idea. Video games, easy to adopt, hard to master. That's generally the principle that I go with Webstudio. Matt is asking, if we want to use a different CMS than CMS apps that you eventually integrate with this, could this work with GraphQL from another source? Yes. I may be wrong because this gets a little bit technical and I'd have to double check with the engineers, but I'm pretty sure it's just GraphQL that we're like that kind of thing that we're building, and you can integrate any other platform with the same GraphQL structure. But I might not have said those words correctly. So jump in the community and let's get engineers to double check. But in principle, yes, once we release our first integrations, we will make it easy for anyone who knows some basic API stuff to integrate with any other CMS. Matt is asking, do your automations accept incoming webhooks? We don't currently, no, we don't currently accept incoming webhooks. We will likely do it as we build these dynamic data binding functionality. So that should happen by January. But I'd have to, jump in again, come back into the community on the more developer-y centric stuff so that I can get the founder and the other engineers to help answer. Henry's asking, Cron, you should take care that somebody like Egypt now has to pay $250 every month with one visa, so high, over $249. I'm assuming this is about pricing.
Yep.
And the lifetime deal
so
price.
basically talking about the price parity. Yeah, of course. Look, we take care of everyone. So, if you want to start with Webstudio, go ahead and start with, it's a tier 1, try it out. If you want to upgrade, you can upgrade, you can talk it up. No, we take care of that. But this is something you're investing for life. You won't of course, in the future, Webstudio is going to be more expensive as it becomes more feature rich, as it grows, right? So this is the right time. You're an early adopter. So go ahead and kind of take the advantage what you're getting from RocketUp. You wouldn't have, had that opportunity. So go ahead, invest, and be a part of the discussions. Of course, it's not beginner friendly, but it's definitely something worth to learn, a new skill. Like you can acquire a new skill altogether.
Yeah, I can't emphasize enough. Like I never went to like code school or did any special coding courses. I learned coding through page builders and then trying to expand on the functionality. And it's a great introductory way to get in and to start learning CSS and how HTML works. But I would sort of end on the price, like just to close off the pricing comment. I can confidently say that there will never be a lower price than the price that you see on the day that you're seeing it. There won't be a future Black Friday deal where we decrease prices or go something along those lines. I like the way that Bricks Builder approached this in the WordPress scene, where they didn't do big sales, they didn't do a lot of promotions and shit. They had their one price, and that one price increased every couple of months as they added new features. It's a similar sort of model that I very much admire and would like to follow. There may be some experiments here and there once I get into crazy marketing ideas or giveaways and stuff like that. But otherwise, for sure, there will never be a lower price than Rocket. Like I can't. You guys knew the prices that I went to Cron with when we first met. Like the current prices are a fraction of this.
So, and of course, like that's when we increase. That's why we chose the price model where we increase as you. So if you missed out, that's on you, right? You should have gotten on that train when the price was fine. Right now, it's that level of it's what worth of the price right now. It's more. Like you should have seen the tier 3.
What I'd say if you're on the fence, if you think you're ever going to do this professionally, build an agency, or you actively use tools like Webflow, Webstudio is going to be in an incredible position in like a year's time. I expect by the end of 2024, we have matched all features on popular platforms like Webflow and Framer, and we're starting to expand into functionality closer to what you see with Bubble, where it's much more app-centric with a lot more dynamic two-way data.
Perfect.
Also, I would invite you, and I think there's value as LTD holders to have a look at the backing behind the company as well. We have, like I was saying earlier, so like the CEO of Product Hunt, or the founder of Product Hunt, the founder of
you have Naval. You have Naval. You have like if Naval invests anywhere, right? You know it's a project that's like a diamond.
Yeah.
Right? So we're gonna have a diamond.
Yeah, that's right. We're really here for the long run. We are going to focus on just subscriptions at some point in the future. not too far future. But I think it's a great way. As a user, I would have liked this. And so that's why I want to sort of give back. Not fully give back. Like, of course, we make some money from it, but the LTD is not a money grab. I would put it that way. It's a way to build a community and for you guys to get access to something. Just a long-term valuable LTD.
Correct. So that's what we also explain to our customers, right? That it's a growth hack, right? So you right now it's just a growth hack. You cannot make money with LTD. It's just that you are early adopters. You're getting feedback, giving feedback back to the team, which then they implement. And when they go back for the next round or they have more customers, it's easy for them to like onboard customers and just convince them to use the product because you guys did the work of giving them the feedback. So that's what the main aim for them to do is. And of course, the great marketing. Like right now, thousands of people know Webstudio within a fraction of 7 days.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the thing. You know, if you see Webstudio's analytics, that there would be a bump of traffic. So that traffic is pixel, and if they've captured email stuff like that. So that's why Webstudio is here, and you should grab it now. Okay, there's a thing from Faz. He says, great webinar and a templates marketplace in the future. I think we already answered about the templates.
Faz, 100% templates marketplace in the future. Probably January, early January. I would assume that we'd see this coming out. Perfect.
All right, amazing. So we have some chat. People are saying, amazing. RocketUp generally gets the best products. You're never wrong with that. We have the best. We are the best in the industry. Just give us one more year. We'll help us have some more. All right. Glad I bought the steel. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for your vote of confidence. Thanks for your time. And Kunal says, LEDs like this generally end up making me a very good amount of money in return. That's, of course, you create a website for your clients with Webstudio. I think like you charge $3,000. You just invested $400 into it and you got back like 10x with just one client.
Even if you're doing this for the LTD stock market and gambling, I'm sure many of you saw me sell my Lemlist license, which I was happy to make almost 10x on. Today in LTD groups. I'm all for the LTD community, the reselling of licenses, this hoarding mentality. I'm a part of it. I think it's cool. So yes, LTD stock market. There we go.
All right. Amazing.
Jen's just sent a question through. Will we be able to stack even more page views later on a monthly basis? Do we get a small discount on it? I was thanks to Jen Pressler, first 100, who's still tier 3. Thanks to him. Jens, we will likely offer an upgrade to LTD users as a one-off to increase the total page view numbers.
Correct. Yep. So for that, your folks can contact. If you want to increase, let's say you're reaching the limit before the month ends, then you can always contact team at Webstudio, and of course you then have to choose the monthly plan or subscribe to a higher plan. So of course they'll have some off, and then you can kind of use the limits as per the plan they give you.
Yeah. So I'd say right now today, right now today, no one is close to hitting their limits. But when you guys do get close to hitting the limits, we'll have as like right now we've planned it at $20 per 100,000 page views, capped at $200. That's how things are today. We will likely have an upgrade offer for all LTD users at some point in the future, just to upgrade your page views if that's something that you wanted. But I don't have anything hard set in. It's flexible, is what I'm trying to say. But at, let's say, worst case scenario, it's going to be that $20 per 100,000 page views or exporting. Best case scenario, we'll have LTD option upgrades for LTD packages or something like that in the future.
Perfect. Awesome. All right. I think, with that, we are just away from wrapping the webinar. Alex,
it was so good, man.
So much. I think this was fun. Like I told you, it's going to be fun from the start. People are going to ask really good questions, and you as an audience, you've been amazing. Thank you so much. You guys are great. Every time the Rocket Hub audience is very good, very matured. You guys attend the webinars till the end, ask good questions. So we always love that. Thank you so much. Alex, before you leave, before we wrap up, any last statement you would like to convey to the audience?
I'll just say it's we're very early on in the journey. Keep that in mind. We launched in June. But I'm super excited I'm both super excited to get to you what we've got planned for the future, as well as a little bit sick of promising without being able to show it to you. So I'm also hyped to show you what's to come. We're not here we're here for the long run. It's a passion project from my heart, from Oleg's heart, from the rest of the team. Like, we care so much about the space. We do this. We would do this if we had no jobs, and this is just, well, that's how it all started, right? But yeah, 100% a passion project. We're going to be here for the long time. We've got some awesome backers. Buy it. Buy it before, like, there'll never be a lower price. You have my word. That's as low as it's going to get today on Rocket Hub. And if you do have any questions, if there's anything I've missed, please do not shy away from tagging me on socials, reaching out, jumping into the community, and know that it helps me as much as it helps you, for me to figure out, okay, what type of educational content do we need to put out? Where are our gaps? How can we make this better? Like, never shy away from asking questions. There's no dumb question, like, just always happy to help. And yeah, just reach out anytime.
Awesome. Amazing. So last note from Rocket Hub, today is the last day when you can apply the coupon code for Black Friday. So all of the deals, everything's over for the coupon code. Webstudio is the only deal which is remaining. And go ahead, use Black Friday 20 as a code on the checkout, and you get 20% off. Last day is never coming back. Then you have to buy Webstudio at the full price. All right. No one will come back to me or Charlie, hey, give us the discount. No, that's not happening. Okay. So go ahead, you know the deal page, buy it right now, right away, before it ends. And there's a we have an Izio discount as well. Izio will run for the 5 more days, so you have time for Izio. Don't worry about that. And Izio is also going out good. You just check out Izio as well. It's built by our own team. It's built by Rocket Up Original. So Izio and Readnery and EDSKey, 3 products, all of them from Rocket Up. Okay, these are originals. Thanks. And Alex, you have a compliment from Kunal. He says, just on a side note, cool tats. What's that?
Thank you, man. I can tell you, I can count on my hands the amount of people that have complimented my tattoos, because I didn't want to do, I'm that weird guy who doesn't like to get anything like anybody else. So I've got tattoos that are, I don't know what to call them.
It looks like threads are all over your body. Like, it's like you have a thread all over your body, like going from here.
Yeah. Well, that's the plan, right? Like, you got a bad side and a good side. Right side of the body has no tattoos. But I appreciate the kind words. It does mean a lot. Thank you. I will get more.
All right. Oh yeah.
Thanks, Carl.
Also tell Alex. Yeah, I said to him, it's a nice, very warm. I think you would like to sleep over there. Like, there's so much calm and peace.
Yeah. No, it's no, you guys are great. Thank you so much.
All right, amazing. All right, so we should wrap it up now. Thanks, Alex, for time. Thanks, everyone. Good night, good morning, good evening from wherever you're watching, and thank you for attending again. So I'll see you on the other side, Alex, and to the next Rocket Up webinar, mostly next year, right? Because it's December now. It's like everyone's sleeping, everyone's enjoying your holidays. So we should see you mostly in January. All right. So thank you so much, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Cron. Thanks so much, everybody. Lovely to see you all. Thank you for the questions.
All right. Bye-bye. Take care.